Hi, everybody. It's Laura from Sheer Passion. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go over one of my favorite subjects, and that is parenting. How funny is it that I would be the type of person who would come on here and talk about parenting when I myself haven't had a biological child? Well, first, let me start off by saying that I don't think that I'm better than anybody that has a biological child, but maybe you'd want to ask yourself a question if you could raise somebody else's child or just a child in general. I have been so blessed to have been a daughter and to now be a stepmom, and to understand that becoming a woman would mean that I at one time was somebody's daughter. So when we talk about parenting, we can only talk about the experience that we've had and the surreality or the surrealness of something that we'd like. I want to first thank everyone for plugging into the video. This is only to be an encouragement and to really help you understand how I see the world and to also share my faith with you. Logan is one of the best gifts that I've ever been given. Through my husband, I got to meet Logan almost 6 years ago now, and he has been nothing but a blessing to my life. But some of the things that I realized early on was that he wasn't able to use rational thought, ask questions directly to your face so that he could learn things. Instead of reacting to something, he overreacts, and instead of believing the best in himself, he doubts. Let me start by saying that I totally understand where he's coming from, considering that I at one time was his age, and I can remember how quickly the undertone in the home is that we're not capable of doing something unless it's God's will in our life. I am so thankful for the way that I think things through. I believe that a God Most High definitely did make us to believe the best in ourselves, and that we are born into a fallen world, a fallen system. And I want you to know that being a human being is awesome. I believe that God made us so that we could understand that we would be working against the enemy. We would be working against evil in our society, but that doesn't put us down. I believe as a woman in the Lord, I am capable of doing many things. I'm capable of being beautiful. I'm capable of swearing. I'm capable of putting others down. I'm capable of supporting others. I'm capable of being the best, and I'm capable of being the worst, and I'm capable of being okay. But all of those will continually force me to be in a relationship of some kind with myself. And that would mean that we'd have to go back to the very beginning of when relationships started for me, and that would be when I was a young girl. And I would have learned very quickly the undertone in the house would be as much love and as much understanding as my parents had had for themselves individually before they got married. Remember that when Joshua and I come together, that he comes with his gifts and I come with mine. And when Logan was born into the situation with his biological mother and his father that I am now married to, he was given a certain set of gifts. His personality was going to be predetermined whether or not he was introverted or extroverted. I also believe that you can be more extroverted if the environment puts out that you are valuable. And every day that you are not a burden, but that you are literally valuable to the home. I do believe that children can learn to be more extroverted. And it is true that when you come into a family, somebody who may seem shy at a restaurant or at a salon can be very talkative in their own home. Try to stay with me as I work through this very quickly. Lately, because my husband and I have run into marriage trouble, and thank you so much for caring about how we are doing. We are great. I'm actually going to be doing a second video, and I'm going to be talking about how Joshua and I can be on two different personal growth paths right now and be allowed spiritually to grow and still connect at the end of the day. But keeping on topic with parenting, one of the things that I like to do is use metaphors and use humors to talk to people about these things. And so I may go back into parts of my childhood that don't sound very funny to you, but please understand that I have forgiven those things. And the rational thought that I have is based on what I did have, what I don't have, and what I believe God wants us to have. Based on my experience with Logan, I have proven that you do not need to come from a woman's belly, and you do not need to have biological parents to believe the best in yourself. If you are taught the value of every human being on the planet is not hinged on the next, and that we were all created with a purpose, you can forgive biological parents for becoming divorced parents, because you would have to understand why they got married and why at those very young ages the marriage didn't work out, and why the marriage was doomed from the beginning based on how we feel about the Lord and how we hold ourselves accountable. See, for Logan's biological parents, Joshua and Madeline, their marriage was not built on pure salvation, which meant that they understood who created the covenant of marriage, which was God, and that they would have to be accountable to him. I would have to say I didn't understand that fully when I married Jeff. And even though people around me may or may not have understood that, it was never actually talked about in a way that said you won't be jumping into the wrong marriage when you're running from different situations that also are what you think are valuable or not valuable for your life. Would I have married Jeff so quickly if I had found value in being single? Well, I thought I did find value in being single, and I'm pretty sure I find value in being single now. As a married woman, it isn't the same. I think I was running into the arms of Jeff for different reasons, and we can go on another time on another video for that. But if you back up and you find out why Madeline and Joshua had been married, you would understand then that you can easily teach Logan to forgive his parents for not sticking it out. And the child has forgiven both of his parents, and anyone who knows him has seen he's lived a very valuable, full life, understanding that people make mistakes. I was very clear with him that even though I would teach him everything that I know, there will be things that I don't know based on the longevity of how long I've been alive on the planet and what the Holy Spirit hasn't revealed to me yet, and the direct questions that I haven't asked myself, and the support systems that I will put myself against while I take a step forward. Parenting is very much like bowling alleys. It is my job to parent Logan in a way that says I am the bumper system on either side of the bowling alley. And I keep him from going in the gutter, but I do not control the ball, how fast it moves. I do not touch the ball. I just tell the ball to keep going forward. And as it is a bumpy ride, being a parent, that ball is going to go slow at first, and it may or may not kick down any pins, but the idea is to continually support this child's yearly growth, not just his bone structure, but most importantly, his brain structure, to continually understand that we've already done these things. So while I tell him to keep going, it's okay, you're hitting that bumper, it's all right, you're going to the left, and that's okay, you might only hit that back pin down, how would I be able to explain those things to him? I would have already had to go through it myself. And I would have to be willing to bring it back up and understand that even though I know how to get the ball down completely straight and knock all the pins down now at 35, it's not applicable to the child who currently needs the bumper system. A lot of parenting, unfortunately, is babysitting. And babysitting is not okay to me. Babysitting says that not all of the people in the circle really understand their value. And I would believe that because based on what kind of human behavior I see in Panera, in our local salons, in churches, in malls, at large functions, most people are getting their energy, their smiles, or their understanding from their cell phone. I think electronics are great. I'm on one right now, and I appreciate this so that it can get the word out. But God has created our brains. And how quickly communication was lacking from the very beginning in the garden. It would be the first thing to go in families. The covenant of marriage was created by Adam and Eve and has continued on in families. We don't ask questions. We don't like to have support systems. We would. We would like to have support systems if we understood that we need them. And it's not because we're stupid. No, the opposite. It's because we have value. Each person has value. And as long as Logan is going down those paths, and he understands that it's okay to have a bumpy path and it's okay to go slower, but it is my job not to babysit him and not to control him, but to tell him that it is okay, that his ride is his own, and that it would be better for me to stand back and allow him to understand that the process of going down the aisle to the bowling pins is the process of life. And some of us may do it rockier than others. But at the time of his age, when the bumper system comes off, he may or may not fall into the gutters. But one thing I do know is if he falls into the gutters like I have before, he'd rather come back up and go all the way down and hit the pins down because he sees the value for it in his life. And while I may have explained the gutters to him, and I explained when it's applicable to him what it feels like to go into the gutter or to give in to your temptations as a spiritual woman who says I do believe in God and yet I sin, I also share with Logan what it felt like to understand why I chose to sin and why I chose to go in the gutter, even though I knew what it also felt like to hit the pins down. So I wanted to come on here and encourage you and to let you know that parenting to me is growing up a human being. And a human being is like me. And every day that we get a bigger bone structure or a stronger bone structure or one day longer in our life, we need to be able to back up and help these young people understand that we're all going through things. It is my absolute joy to be a step parent because to me, parenting is teaching. And you can only teach what you've actually gone through and experienced. And so he loves that I get involved in his life. And it doesn't matter if the subject is sex. It doesn't matter if the subject is school or his mom or his dad or me or my mom or my dad. I've experienced it, and I've had to forgive people, and I've had to forgive myself. I've also had to see what happens when the pins go down. I've also had to understand the experience and then get a support system in place called accountability. Accountability then leads me into responsibility to take action in my spirituality. And I'm teaching my stepson that it does not break you, but it absolutely makes you who you are in the end. And I wanted to come on here and encourage all of the parents out there that when it feels like you're babysitting, you need to take a step back and remember that you are the bumper system. You are not to do the dishes for your children. You are to teach your children to do the dishes. And they may or may not do it the way that you do it, but it would be best to teach them how to do it. So when they live on their own, no matter what society they live in or who they live with, the value that is in the home is based on the individual's breath. So it is my joy to share that with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's just remember that we do have purposes and that it is not to compete with one another in this town, but it is to connect. And if we are connecting, every single person that is connected to another person will feel the value system of the person standing beside them. It is not who does it better, who looks better, who's taller, who's stronger, or who's wealthier, but it is that we can be all of those things together. Thank you so much for tuning in. Keep trying. Every day, everybody's trying to be a little bit better than yesterday. We're right there with you here in the Suggs house. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.